Tonight, action to bring down power prices, but not for everyone. Melbourne's recycling mess. 500 million plastic bags found in warehouses across the city. How could it happen? The tragic hospital death of a 2-year-old boy. Christmas heartache for a young family. Their home goes up in flames in Melbourne's west. Australian cricket's new nightmare as it faces claims our team was ordered to cheat. And a Collingwood star's stint in hospital facing a health battle.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Peter Mitchell starts now.
Good evening. There's action on rising power prices, with the Albanese government committing $1.5 billion of taxpayer cash to help with electricity bills. The money will be paid directly to power companies to offset bills, but it's only for some.
A high-powered meeting on sky-high power prices.
Thanks everyone for coming together in this way.
A virtual national cabinet agreeing to a two-phase strategy. First, $1.5 billion in direct discounts to cut electricity bills from next March for pensioners, unemployed and concession card holders. Then, a system of price caps and tougher regulation to cut all electricity prices for 1 year, but not until next July.
We're taking urgent action to shield Australian families from the worst impacts of these price hikes.
The eventual savings, at least $230 on electricity for average households, and gas price increases reduced from 20% this financial year and next to 18% this year and 4% next. The discounts will appear as reductions in electricity bills and come on top of existing state government rebates.
So that it makes a difference as well to having a deflationary impact on the economy rather than an inflationary one.
The Commonwealth will cap wholesale gas prices, the state's coal, reducing the next default price offer, which helps set retail prices and comes into effect from July. The gas price, currently $27 a gigajoule, will be capped at $12, and coal, now at $268 a tonne, will be capped at $125.
Extraordinary times call for extraordinary measures.
Federal Parliament here in Canberra will be recalled next week to make these changes law, and the New South Wales Parliament will need to do the same.
The New South Wales opposition stands ready to work with the government to recall Parliament.
The Minerals Council CEO Tanya Constable saying the solution is more supply, not more regulation. You don't fix the system by making it more complex. Opposition leader Peter Dutton says Labor promised a $275 cut.
Now that is dead and buried in the announcement today. It's clear that this is a significant broken promise.
Though much of the price rise was hidden by the coalition government. Mark Riley, 7 News.
Now to breaking news tonight, and a police officer has been slashed across the face with a knife after a wild police pursuit in Melbourne. Bethan Yeoman is tracking the latest developments, and Beth, 2 men are tonight behind bars.
Mitch, a police officer is in a stable condition after a violent end to the car chase. Police say he was attacked when they stopped a stolen car and arrested 2 men. The injured police officer tackled one of the men to the ground. That's when he was slashed. Police allege the men stole a car from a food delivery driver in Kurrajong this morning. The injured officer still managed to take the suspect into custody. Police say a homemade firearm fell out of a man's pocket while he was trying to run away. Mitch?
Bethan Yeoman in the newsroom, thank you. An EPA probe into a recycling mess has found 500 million plastic shopping bags sitting in Melbourne warehouses. The bags were secretly stockpiled after they were returned for recycling by supermarket customers.
In big warehouses across Melbourne, a big problem uncovered. 3,000 tonnes of waste meant to be recycled. Instead, it could end up as landfill.
Plastic bags about 6 grams, so we're probably talking about 500 million plastic bags.
The soft plastic was collected at supermarkets by RedCycle. Its operations were overwhelmed and subsequently paused last month. The company was already under investigation for allegedly stockpiling. The EPA has now found 6 warehouses in Melbourne containing soft plastics for recycling in Williamstown North, West Footscray, Tottenham and Truganina, plus Campbellfield and Tullamarine. And tonight, investigators are headed to another possible location in West Wodonga. The warehouses are run by other companies contracted by RedCycle.
The major risk we're concerned of is obviously fire risk. So our officers have been on site with Fire Rescue Victoria.
The supermarket recycling scheme remains suspended. The EPA is now looking at potential fines for the companies involved. They could range into the millions of dollars. The EPA insists there is a future for soft plastic recycling in Victoria. Even if this batch ends up in landfill, some is from interstate.
This isn't about the recycling sector. This is about one company or one program that hasn't done the right thing.
RedCycle says its priority is converting the waste into a desirable and needed resource. Blake Johnson, 7 News.
Melbourne is being warned to brace for hospital trouble this weekend. Jade Vincent is at the Alfred and Jade. They are stretched to the limit.
Mitch, the health system is already under extreme pressure and now the ambulance union is warning Victorians to expect it could be overloaded again this weekend. One of the biggest problems they're facing is more than 1,600 healthcare workers are currently out of action due to COVID, numbers we haven't seen since the height of the pandemic. So the union is calling on Victorians for their help, urging them that if it is not an emergency to seek help from their GP or consult the virtual ED before heading to hospital.
Friday, Saturdays are often the busiest nights for paramedics and emergency departments, but you add in 1,600 people off due to COVID, that situation's always going to be much worse. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if we see Ambulance Victoria use the escalation strategies proactively to go to code orange or possibly even code red in order to deal with the workload.
There have been 85 COVID deaths in Victoria in the past week. There are more than 700 COVID patients currently in hospital, and the Chief Health Officer says it's unclear just how long this current wave will last. Mitch.
Jade Vincent at the Alfred Hospital, thank you. The death of a toddler has left his parents grieving and battling bureaucracy for answers. The couple took him to 4 hospitals, but the boy died even though a simple antibiotic could have saved his life.
Just 19 hours after his first symptoms of vomiting, lethargy and a temperature, little Noah Suvatsis was brain dead, the victim of undiagnosed meningitis. His heartbroken parents blame a series of botched decisions by staff at Wangaratta and Myrtleford hospitals, plus the Royal Children's and Ambulance Victoria. No one gave their only child an antibiotic that would have saved his life. His dad told the Herald Sun, "It felt like everyone was conspiring to kill my son due to incompetence. Their mistakes have destroyed our world. It's excruciating."
Noah.
Now the parents want justice after what they say was medical negligence, miscommunication and delays.
Given it is actually before the coroner, I don't think it's appropriate to comment any further other than to extend our sympathies.
The hospitals involved wouldn't explain their decisions for Noah's care to 7 News.
Meningitis can be quite difficult to diagnose, particularly in the early stages of it.
His mum said, "Not once have we felt like they thought about Noah as a little boy. It's all about saving themselves and trying to find excuses and loopholes." 2 investigations by separate authorities didn't find anyone responsible. 12 months after Noah's death, his parents' last hope for accountability is now with the Health Complaints Commissioner and the coroner. Paul Dowsley, 7 News.
Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are facing a ferocious backlash after taking another swipe at the royals. The couple is under fire for disrespecting the Queen and veiled attacks on King Charles and Prince William.
Highly anticipated, long awaited.
When a family and a family business are in direct conflict.
Monumentally hyped.
There was no other option at this point. I said, we need to get out of here.
The Netflix documentary that promised to tell Harry and Meghan's story in the world's most expensive reality show.
I just really want to get to the other side of all of this.
Video diaries, never before seen footage.
That's your grandma Diana.
Alongside upbeat insights to moments like their first date.
You were late.
But Meghan's recreation of the first time she met the Queen has sparked a storm.
Like I curtsied as though I was like...
pleasure to meet you, Your Majesty. Like, was that okay?
Even Harry looked uncomfortable, while social media erupted with accusations of disrespect.
That has offended quite a lot of people here.
She also hinted at a frosty first encounter with Kate.
Even when Will and Kate came over, and I had met her for the first time they came over for dinner, I remember I was in ripped jeans and I was barefoot. It's like I was a hugger. I've always been a hugger. I didn't realize that is really jarring for a lot of Brits.
Throughout the three-part series, criticism of the royal family simmers. Harry taking veiled swipes at his brother and father.
For so many people in the family, especially obviously the men, there can be a temptation or an urge to marry someone who would fit the mould. The difference between making decisions with your head or your heart.
He also laid bare his contempt for the British press.
Oh my God,
Watched him go into this park and then...
Is he with us?
Yes, sir, he was just ahead.
Saying the family did nothing to help them, and again throwing accusations of underlying racism.
So it was almost like a rite of passage. And some of the members of the family was like, right, but my wife had to go through that. So why should your girlfriend be treated any differently? Why should you get special treatment? Why should she be protected? And I said, the difference here is the race element.
But critics of the show were swift. The programme mocked as ginger and the whinger.
It borders on comedy. It's that bad.
Samantha Markle, Meghan's half-sister, spoke to Sunrise live from Florida.
I'm not going to call it a documentary. I could only think, when I was trying to appropriately name it, it was a flopumentary.
She was scathing.
To pit family members against one another, using lies and manipulation. No, the buck stops here.
But just hours after the series began, King Charles was at church looking relaxed.
Have you spoken to Prince Harry?
Possibly relieved by the lack of expected damaging revelations.
It wasn't dramatic. There were no major bombshells, but in terms of hitting the nuclear button with his family, I think he's done that.
The series is said to have earned the couple $150 million.
It's amazing what people will do when offered a huge amount of money. 50,000, 100,000.
Critics said he could have been talking about himself.
So to sit back and say that they were silenced and they couldn't tell their story, with multi-million-dollar PR, I would beg to differ.
Now dubbed the Duke and Duchess of Netflix, they're back next week with 3 more episodes. Chris Reason, 7 News.
The handling of Canberra's Parliament House rape trial has been referred to the Australian Commission for Law Enforcement Integrity. It follows explosive claims that AFP members pressured the Director of Public Prosecutions to not prosecute Bruce Lerriman over the alleged rape of Brittany Higgins. A family of 5 has lost almost everything after fire tore through their Werribee home. Investigators believe the blaze was started by a faulty car battery in the garage.
Within seconds of exploding, this family car was a fireball. It was just after 5:30 this morning when neighbours saw the garage alight.
At that time, fire wasn't that big, and in just minutes of time, the whole house was on fire.
Rowan Rizzoli immediately ran into the burning home to make sure all 5 family members made it out. 3 were children, 1 a baby girl just 5 weeks old.
It was a very quick-moving fire and quite hot when we first got here.
The family was safe but devastated, watching on from across the street.
Having interconnected working smoke alarms inside the house, this family may have not been alerted, and it could have been a much more devastating case here.
Despite the quick thinking of the family and firefighters, the blaze tore through every room in the house. As you can see, almost everything has been destroyed, except for a few handfuls of precious possessions brave crew members were able to save.
The firefighters managed to just bring out a few boxes of the belongings and some Christmas presents which were wrapped.
This afternoon, Mum Rebecca was able to salvage a little more, but not much. Fire investigators suspect a faulty car battery was to blame. Christy Mayer, 7 News.
Thousands of Hyundais are being recalled over fears a defect could cause them to catch fire. 2014 and 2015 models of the popular iX35 have a fault in their braking systems. The same fault has led to the recall of almost 300,000 vehicles of various makes and models all over the world. The car maker is urgently contacting owners who can have the defect fixed for free at a dealership. David Warner wasn't out in the middle, but his manager's bombshell comments about the ball tampering saga have hit Cricket Australia for 6. Tonight, the opener's future in the sport is a little clearer.
The man in the middle of the Test cricket saga, today surrounded by loved ones, the morning after his manager dropped bombshell allegations on Cricket Australia.
Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't heard anything yet.
You haven't?
No.
No, you said that you guys were told to cheat in 2016 in the Test.
Have a good night, champion.
The claims stem back to the infamous Hobart Test in 2016, where players were allegedly told by cricket executives to cheat. Today, players past and present keeping quiet.
Nathan, were you told at all by executives to cheat in 2016 in Hobart? Steve, were you asked to cheat in 2016?
I've got no idea what you're talking about.
I don't think there's any cheating going on. If there has been, it's been going on for a long while.
And as everyone returned to the Adelaide Oval, unanswered questions still swirled about which cricket execs may have made the call. At least one of the starting 11 from that match told 7 News it didn't happen.
They're really unhelpful and I think unfounded comments.
7 News understands that Cricket Australia directors have met here in Adelaide during the Test, where the fallout from Warner's lifetime leadership ban and CEO Nick Hockley's handling of the saga were discussed. Warner has been assured that the ban only relates to playing and he will be able to coach in the future.
We believe in redemption and I'm disappointed that at this stage David has not chosen not to take that opportunity.
Liam Tapper, 7 News.
Collingwood's run of bad luck continues. Tim Watson, another star, has been admitted to hospital.
Mitch, defender Darcy Moore has picked up a serious infection. Chief Football reporter Tom Brown has the latest. And Tom, this clarifies why he's been missing at training.
Tim, Darcy Moore, their star, has been missing from training all week. The Pies simply prepared to say all they could say was in an illness. Well, this afternoon they revealed the full extent of the shock diagnosis. It's a bone infection, commonly called osteomyelitis. Now, the common treatment is hospital, followed by 4 to 6 weeks of high-dose antibiotics. And that's what Darcy has been doing. He's now out of hospital, recovering under further hospital care at home. Now, Collingwood are hopeful this was picked up early and are hopeful there won't be any long-term implications. In some instances, it's very serious indeed. Darcy, who was probably their player of the finals, considered a future captain in the future, he won't now be back at training until post-Christmas at the earliest. A serious diagnosis, a bone infection for Darcy Moore, Tim.
Thanks, Tom. We'll see you again soon. Also ahead in sport, Marnus Labuschagne now sits only behind Sir Donald Bradman. We'll tell you why soon. The accolades keep coming for Ash Barty, and a dumb star has made a remarkable comeback. Mitch, more on that soon.
OK, we'll see you then. Thank you, Tim. There are new developments over a brutal MCG attack. Next, a mum opens up after coming face to face with the man accused of bashing her son. Also, another eye-watering fine in the crackdown on our casinos. A music legend facing a rare and crippling disease. Later, how a toddler survived after he was bitten by a snake twice.
And we're heading into a warm weekend. I'll have the full details later in 7 News.
The driver of a concrete truck has been taken to hospital after his vehicle rolled on a roundabout at Clyde in Melbourne's southeast. The man in his 30s is in a stable condition. Emergency crews were quick to clear the scene to get traffic moving again. A man accused of attacking a footy fan with a didgeridoo has come face to face with the family of his alleged victim. Jesse Gardner says he intends to plead guilty over the violent assault outside a Dreamtime game at the G.
An appalling act of violence that left a footy fan in hospital for 5 days with a fractured skull, broken nose and bloodied eye. Jesse Gardner is accused of delivering the blow after the Dreamtime game in May. Today, he told a magistrate he intends to plead guilty in the Koori court.
When did you decide to plead guilty?
Gardiner was arrested 3 days after the assault at a home in Dandenong North.
Are you embarrassed?
Today, he came face to face with the family of the man he's accused of bashing.
And to see him lying on that bed, oh, shocking. Absolutely shocking.
Of the 71,000 people that were there that night, he would have been the last person that would have warranted anything like this at all. And even now, it's hard for people, really.
Gardiner represented himself in court today, but was supported by an Aboriginal elder. The magistrate urged him to get legal representation ahead of his next court hearing.
We'll just have to wait and see what happens.
The 26-year-old will learn his sentence next year. Estelle Greeping, 7 News.
The Star Entertainment Group has been fined $100 million over a series of breaches at its Queensland casinos. A damning report found the company encouraged patrons who were banned interstate to gamble and fell short when it came to its anti-money laundering policies. It's been given 12 months to get its house in order or face having its licence suspended. Celine Dion has revealed she's been diagnosed with an incurable disease called stiff person syndrome. The music megastar is struggling to walk and has cancelled all her tour shows.
Courage is the name of Celine Dion's current world tour, and the Canadian musical force will need plenty of it as she faces this battle.
Have been diagnosed with a very rare neurological disorder called stiff person syndrome.
It's an incurable disorder, and the Grammy winner says it's already taking a toll, telling fans online in an emotional video she's cancelling her European dates.
Sometimes causing difficulties when I walk and not allowing me to use my vocal cords to sing the way I'm used to.
Stiff person syndrome targets muscles, causing them to seize up and spasm, increasing sensitivity to both sound and touch. Only around 1 in a million people are affected by it.
I'm working hard every day to build back my strength and my ability to perform again.
It's far from certain if the 54-year-old will ever return to the stage.
I miss you so much. I miss seeing all of you, being on the stage, performing for you.
In the United States, David Woywood, 7 News.
Very sad. At 110 years old, one of Melbourne's most iconic landmarks has finally had a facelift. Luna Park's Mr Moon now has something to smile about after his first restoration in 22 years.
The pandemic's been hard on all of us. He was looking very sad.
Now he has better eyebrows.
Luna Park is Australia's oldest amusement park. A Christmas light show has sparked a storm in Melbourne's northeastern suburbs with a standoff between a local council and police. Details are next on 7 News. Also, the grim verdict on our aged care homes. A Backstreet Boys star facing bombshell sex allegations. And a historic Melbourne landmark gets a new lease on life. Residents behind the popular Christmas lights display in Ivanhoe are furious the local council won't promote the event. They're also critical the council will only commit to 4 days of traffic management.
For Tony Pagaro, for 45 years,
it's the most wonderful time of the year.
He adorns his home in the boulevard with 20,000 globes. A big impact on visitors, even bigger on him.
I love a kid. I love family. I love everybody. And this is the time to love people.
But as Tony and other Ivanhoe residents prepare their homes, council is playing the Grinch. It will not promote the famous lights here to keep crowds down.
The council, I'm not happy with them at all. I think it's a disgrace that they're not supporting it.
The council says Victoria Police has recommended council not promote the event, but police fired back. Any decision to promote the event is a matter solely for council.
I want the council to supporting us to make sure that we keep it going stronger.
Council also will provide traffic management here for just 4 days.
4 days is pathetic. It's got to be at least 2 weeks.
The defiant Sadari family's display will stay up all December.
I get a lot of chagrin from the council because they want me to pull it down and whatever, but it is here to stay.
You're a Christmas rebel.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I encourage all of the boulevard to do it.
Nick McCallum, 7 News.
A new 5-star rating system has revealed 10% of the nation's aged care homes are failing our most vulnerable. The system began today, rating homes based on staffing levels, complaints and reports of serious incidents. Only 1% of facilities received 5 stars. American basketballer Brittany Griner has been freed in a prisoner swap with Russia. The 32-year-old had been handed a 9-year sentence for possession of cannabis oil.
Do you know where I'm heading to?
No.
You fly back home?
To the US.
To the US.
Griner was released in exchange for convicted Russian arms dealer Viktor Bout, known as the Merchant of Death. And Backstreet Boy Nick Carter is being accused of the rape of a 17-year-old girl more than 20 years ago. The alleged victim, Shay Ruth, who is autistic and has cerebral palsy, has now launched a civil lawsuit against the pop star.
After he raped me, I remember him calling me a retarded and grabbing me and leaving bruises on my arm.
Carter denies the allegations. A derelict town hall in South Melbourne is set to receive a musical makeover. The heritage-listed building has sat dormant for 4 years, but will now be transformed into a performing arts hub.
Mouldy wallpaper and a roof that's only just holding up. A $65 million makeover is set to revive the derelict South Melbourne Town Hall.
This project is designed to bring this tired old building back to life.
4 years ago, a beam in the roof collapsed.
It brought down the sprinkler system, so it flooded all through.
Deemed a safety hazard, it's sat empty ever since, until the Australian National Music Academy made a bold bid to turn the site into a rehearsal and performance space for its students.
When we saw this room without the subdivisions and the offices and the mass of it was revealed, that's when we thought, actually, no, this building has potential.
Thick walls and high ceilings also create the perfect canvas for a music school.
The architecture is just absolutely beautiful, and playing in the acoustics, it's magnificent.
Designs are yet to be finalised, but the project will include 2 major concert halls. There has been some objection to the project from locals worried the space will no longer be available to the public, but the Academy ensures that won't be the case, with the inclusion of a rooftop bar.
Our intention is to open it up to the community to have events all the time.
If it all goes to plan, it will open in 2026. Bethan Yeoman, 7 News.
A toddler has survived a snake nightmare. Next, the 2-year-old was bitten twice but was saved by a twist. Details are next. Also coming up, toddler foods blamed for fueling a childhood obesity crisis. The NGV makes an Australian-first fashion statement. And later, how 4 one-minute bursts could save your life. To breaking news now, and Labor has declared victory in the state seat of Bass. It means the Andrews government has now won 56 seats. That's one more than they won in the 2018 state election. Labor's Jordan Crugnale took to social media in the past hour to claim victory in the southeast electorate. A toddler has survived being bitten twice by a snake on the family farm an hour away from help. Experts warn the wet spring has created perfect conditions for snakes to lurk close to homes.
For a 2-year-old still learning to talk, the words were unmistakable.
He just said, "Mum, a snake's bit my leg."
And Riley had the puncture marks to prove it, prompting a frantic 000 call.
My son's been bitten by a snake and I'm heading towards Mapping Hospital.
Mum Patrina Poole told to stay put.
They're coming lights and sirens. We just need you to stay exactly where you are and keep him as immobile as possible.
That was 40 minutes of sheer hell.
Paramedics found 2 bites.
That's when I feared the absolute worst.
But remarkably, both strikes were dry, no poison injected.
I'd say the young fella's just had a little defensive bite and he's gotten away really, really lucky.
Patrina has seen 6 deadly brown snakes in 6 weeks.
All their stars have aligned. They've got, great environmental conditions. There's lots of food, there's lots of shelter, and they're going to be breeding.
Around 750 hospitals across Australia stock anti-venom, but knowing what to do immediately if you or someone else is bitten by a snake, especially far from help, could be life-saving.
Call 000, keep the patient still, apply a pressure bandage.
Teach your kids to tell you when they've been bitten, teach your kids to stand still when there is a snake around.
A lesson Riley knows all too well.
He was so ridiculously brave.
Ashley Hansen, 7 News.
The Australian share market has clawed back from its rocky start to the week. Here's Network Finance Editor Gemma Acton.
Thanks, Peter. After 3 days of losses, the ASX 200 is ending the week on a better note, up 38 points to 7,213. Miners were today's big winners, buoyed by China dialing back COVID restrictions. The Aussie dollar is closing in on 68 US cents as we approach the weekend, while here we see the positive impact those policy changes in China are having on iron ore. And customers are far less happy with their banks this year than they were last year. While Bendigo, Macquarie and Suncorp all rated above average, the Big Four and the Bank of Queensland delivered below average customer experiences. ANZ taking the wooden spoon. Peter.
Thanks, Gemma. Parents are being warned that many popular food items for toddlers are loaded with sugar. A study from the World Health Organization found more than 75% of ready-made items like fruit bars and yogurt fail to meet its health guidelines. Some of the worst offenders had a sugar content of more than 70%. The National Gallery of Victoria is making a fashion statement showcasing the designs of Alexander McQueen in an Australian first. Hundreds of thousands of people are expected to visit the summer blockbuster.
From daring runways to star-studded red carpets, designer Alexander McQueen redefined fashion in the 20th century.
He was a provocateur by his own admission, but mainly he emboldened women. That was quite provocative for the time, and I think it still is today.
Now his feather-ruffling legacy is on show at the National Gallery.
Some of the most, meaningful works that are in the exhibition are those pieces that the NGV acquired directly from McQueen back in June 1996.
McQueen was known for his masterful tailoring, working with men's suits before discovering couture.
The beauty of his work is that in order to deconstruct the rules, you have to know and excel at the rules. And not a lot of designers really can do that.
Each piece complemented with a headdress from Hollywood costume designer Michael Schmidt.
Her only stipulation was no bald mannequins.
The NGV attracts visitors from around the country to its exhibitions. Chanel shone last year, while Dior dazzled in 2017, both attracting more than 215,000 visitors.
The Mind Mythos Muse exhibition opens on Sunday and runs until mid-April. Bethan Yeoman, 7 News.
Sport is next with Tim Watson, and Tim, 2 Australian stars had a chance to get greedy.
They did, Mitch. It was double trouble in the second test in Adelaide. Coming up, how Travis Head blew his chance for a magical moment against the West Indies. The big hitters come out to play for the Stars and Renegades, ready for the real deal. See Brodie Grundy's replacement as the Magpies unveil their new playing numbers, and the invincible gun for hire steals the show in the NFL. Welcome back. Marnus Labuschagne and Travis Head are kicking themselves for letting double centuries go begging on day 2 of the second test. With another imposing total on the board, the question now, can the West Indies survive the pink ball under lights tonight at the Adelaide Oval?
That Steve Smith made a duck in this test.
Cotton bowled!
he'd have sat back and wept with all the batsmen who had to front up to the West Indies in the 80s.
Forceful shot for 4.
As gentle as Test cricket will ever be for Marnus Labuschagne, 3 straight tons for the world number 1.
Magnificent from Marnus!
And Tim Payne's pick as future captain.
I think I'm a leader in this team. You know, I don't need a captain or a vice-captain symbol next to my name.
And Travis Head, now fully unshackled as Australia's middle order weapon.
That's it.
5th Test ton, first at home, with a toast from Mark Leishman and an envious partner.
This bloke strikes at 100. He strikes at 100 in Test cricket.
Today, their partnership through 200, Head motored past Marnus to 150.
The pride of South Australia.
Labuschagne, more obsessive determination than raw talent, reached 3,000 runs in 51 innings. Only Bradman got there quicker. Smith took 12 more. On 163...
It is gone, has he? He has.
With 471 runs in 3 innings.
Another masterclass from Labuschagne.
Worth a treat from his batting buddy. Cameron Green, next in for 435 minutes this series.
Edge, didn't carry.
Almost went first ball. Head could save a dinner with a Test best 172. The feast ended by a total mess of a run out.
Oh, there.
Head 175 and fuming. Green's 9 off 42. Some fuel for the doubters, but only delaying the fireworks to come tonight. Matt Carmichael, 7 News.
Marcus Stoinis isn't going to let the disappointment of losing Glenn Maxwell ruin the Stars' season. The Big Show was out on crutches, recovering from a broken leg, supporting teammates in a practice match against the Renegades. Stoinis, meanwhile, hit a quick-fire 62. Kiwi in-point Trent Bolt determined to make the most of the 8 games he can play.
I feel like I've worked hard to do the things that I have done in international cricket, and just want to make the most of probably my later years in my career, and come here and see what I can do.
Aaron Finch isn't slowing down since the T20 World Cup, smashing an unbeaten 79 and hitting the winning runs as the Renegades chase down a monster 221. With the AFL announcing Gil McLachlan won't step down until round 5, mystery still surrounds his replacement. Return to Chief Football reporter Tom Brown. And Tom, you've got some new details on his successor.
Tim, certainly no announcement from the AFL yet. The paper smoke hasn't risen, so to speak, from the AFL chimney. What I can report is a development late this week. Several clubs now under the firm impression that Andrew Dillon, who's currently the legal and football boss at the AFL, the long-standing legal boss, will succeed Gil McLachlan next year as the AFL CEO. That's set to happen, I understand. Now, in another development, the AFL want to avoid this uncertainty in the future, so I understand they've informally contacted the other candidates. So you can see there, guys like Tom Harley and Brendan Galen, invited them to apply for an expanded second in-charge role at the AFL. They'd be well placed in the future to apply for the top job. The AFL keen to recruit from within. Now, in terms of the other candidate, Travis Old, he was in South Australia today announcing the round 5 fixture and explained the use of the term gather round, which the AFL has described for the round.
The event makes the name doesn't make the event, and that's not taking anything away from the name. I guarantee you, Sunday, 16th of April next year, people will be raving about the gather round.
And Tim, just finally, the Pies announced their new numbers this afternoon. Braden Maynard getting the biggest upgrade. He's been upgraded to Brodie Grundy and Alan Didak's popular number 4. Bruz, a popular player at the Pies, Tim.
Thanks, Tom. Melbourne City Socceroos stars are ready to back up their World Cup performance. Matthew Leckie is likely to be on restricted minutes in tomorrow night's clash with Sydney FC.
We can't afford to push him, and risk the injury. That's not in our nature.
Jamie McLaren and Marco Tilio also made the flight after training all week. The accolades keep coming for Ash Barty. The 26-year-old received her second Don Award from the Sport Australia Hall of Fame for winning the Australian Open before retiring this year.
I feel very privileged and humbled to be a very small part of that again and have an opportunity to be involved in such an epic celebration for Australian sport. It's incredible.
The late Peter Norman won the Dawn Award for being a groundbreaker in sport for his role in the famous Black Power salute at the 1968 Olympics. The night featured a tear-jerking elevation to legend status for the late Shane Warne. Super Bowl champs, the LA Rams, completed an incredible comeback in the final 10 seconds against the Raiders after being down 16-3.
to the end zone to Jefferson. Is that possible? Touchdown.
That secured a 17-16 win. The quarterback Baker Mayfield was only recruited 2 days ago after being dumped by the Panthers. What a week he has had.
That's an incredible story.
On the scrap heap earlier in the week, not sure where he was going to go, if in fact he was going to go anywhere, and he gets the call up from the Rams and look what he does.
Remarkable indeed. Thank you very much indeed. Tim. A study has revealed just a few minutes a day of intense exercise can have lasting health benefits. And the good news, you don't have to hit the gym to get a workout.
Lugging groceries or carrying the kids, this could be your new gym.
I mean, my back's gone, so I'm not sure.
Exercise is all around us, even in the mundane every day. That's according to a new global study spanning 7 years, 25,000 people, and this wristband. It found just 11 bouts of incidental exercise for 45 seconds a day can reduce your risk of death from cardiovascular disease by up to 65%. It can also reduce your risk of dying from cancer by almost half.
From 10-15 seconds to 1 or 2 minutes are very likely to come with some form of health benefit.
The average Australian gym goer spends $21 a week plus joining fees. High-end gyms charge as much as $65. 50% of us attend classes less than once a week. This type of improvised exercise shouldn't replace your existing gym routine. This is for people who don't want structured exercise in their lives, and for people who simply don't have the time. But there are a couple of rules. It has to be frequent and intense enough so that talking at the end of it is really quite difficult.
That means we are hitting the vigorous zone.
While that has great long-term benefits, the less is more approach, we're warned, won't necessarily keep the weight off in the short term. Tom Saker, 7 News.
Take the stairs, not the lift. Jane Bunn is next with the weekend weather. And Jane, it's warming up.
Mitch, it should be warm for much of the weekend. And Saturday looks absolutely glorious. The full details are next. Hello again. We are heading into a warmer weekend as grey skies slowly cleared to sunshine during the day today. By late afternoon, it was just wispy high cloud and it briefly reached 17.6 in the city. The cloud didn't clear outer northeastern suburbs. This was Lilydale Lake at 5 p.m. So those areas didn't warm up as much as they would on a day like this with a light southerly. Maximum temperatures were fairly uniform across town. Now tomorrow they should be 5 to 8 degrees warmer than today. Showers continued over eastern Gippsland as lingering cloud gradually broke up over the south. High cloud dropped rain that didn't reach the ground in the Mallee, and a southerly airflow kept a lid on temperatures. This is for the 5th day in a row. Our weather is about to change, and that's all thanks to the location of the centre of the high. Now, when that is back over to our west, we are on its cool side. When it is out to our east, winds flick northerly, and we're on its warm side. We stay warm until the next disturbance, and that one is this trough over South Australia. So there's no more cool blues tomorrow. Tomorrow all about warmer yellows, even a hint of pink that's 30 in the northwest. The warmth builds on Sunday, but it also comes with a gusty northerly wind and cloud. So Saturday is the nicer day of the weekend. Then by Monday we are back to those cold blues as yet another cold outbreak begins. Showers and thunderstorms pop up on Sunday, tending to areas of rain in these eastern parts here and central as well. Showers continue on Monday and it turns cold enough for snow in the Alps. We have had a nice break from torrential rain, but there is the potential for that in thunderstorms later in the weekend. Then the showers just keep on coming for the south for almost all of next week. Around the nation tomorrow, that northern heatwave does extend hot weather down into South Australia tomorrow, while it is mild through the east. Adelaide heading for a hot 35 at the Cricket, Alice Springs 42, Brisbane only 25, all thanks to where that high is located. To Victoria, crisp at first, then quickly warming up. We've got light to moderate easterly, then northerly winds. There is lots of sunshine out there, but high cloud builds in the west later. I couldn't rule out a fairly dry thunderstorm around Horsham late afternoon. Closer in, we have a gorgeous Saturday on the way, quickly warming up into the mid-20s. Bright sunshine for much of the day, then high cloud builds late afternoon. That makes it not as cool tomorrow night. The city begins on 8, but it's already warmer than today by late in the morning, and it rises to 25 in the afternoon. It is sunny with light winds. To the 8-day outlook, Sunday brings strong northerly winds, building cloud. Warm, yes, ahead of an afternoon cool change. Now, the top temperature will depend on if that's early or late. I've gone with 27. The risk of potentially heavy thunderstorms late afternoon at night, and then we're back into our next cold outbreak by Tuesday afternoon, bitter again. 25 tomorrow after a cool start, a gorgeous Saturday in the sunshine. We'll really enjoy it, Mitch.
That sounds great, but summer vanishes next week.
It does again. Lots of days of just 15 in a row.
Bit of a holiday for
Indeed.
us. Thank you, Jane. And that's the way it is this Friday, the 9th of December. Thanks for your company. For now, from the 7 News team, good night.